Back here on CBS Sports HQ, where conference championship weekend in college football is upon us. But before that, we prepare for the release of the latest college football playoff rankings. You're looking at our top 25 teams at this very moment here at CBS Sports. But for more on all the anticipation surrounding college football this upcoming week, let's go ahead and say hello to our own Chip Patterson and Danny Kanell from the Cover 3 podcast. Gentlemen, it's great to see you. Danny, as we get set to enter championship weekend, I'm looking at this list of all these teams that seem as though they are locks. However, how many teams can we safely say are in that college football playoff? What's the number?
I have it at 8. That's the number I have that are comfortably in, and it would be the participants in the Big Ten championship game. Oregon and Penn State are in, no matter the result of that game. I've got Texas and Georgia, the SEC championship game matchup. I've got them in. I thought about leaving Georgia out of the loss, but then the optics of that would be a split, a 1-1 split with Texas, which just would feel wrong for me for letting Texas move on. So I think Georgia's in with a loss. And then these are the 4 teams that I think are chilling the most, like chilling to the max. Notre Dame, Indiana, Tennessee, and Ohio State kicking their feet up, watching these other teams bang up on each other, probably calling their family members, booking flights for a home playoff game. Those are the 4 teams that I think have it really nice. Yes, Ohio State's probably going to be licking their wounds, would like to get on the field sooner rather than later. But the consolation prize from getting embarrassed by your rival, Michigan, is still getting a chance to win a national championship. So those are the 8 teams that I think are in no matter what happens.
Yeah, I've got it at 8 as well. But the other way to attack this is I've only got one spot that is truly up for grabs. So that means if I'm talking to Miami, which just lost against Syracuse, if I'm talking to Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina, who've all beat up on each other and have all beat up on different common opponents, I'm saying there's one spot that's left. And if SMU loses, I think that they join that conversation as the 5th team that is in the mix for that one spot. Because in addition to Danny's chilling the most 4, I think we're going to get obviously a spot for the ACC, a spot for the group of 5. But you're just doing the math here and you're looking at, who's going to end up being able to get that last spot. Do you respect the head-to-head of the fact that Alabama beat South Carolina? Do you respect the head-to-head of Ole Miss beating South Carolina? Or do you look at South Carolina as one of the hottest teams in the country? There are a lot of teams that potentially are in the mix for that one final spot. But the way that I look at it, it is 8 teams. I 100% agree with you, Danny, but 11 spots are filled. So if you're not playing on Conference Championship Saturday, you're fighting for just one spot in the playoff.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, Chip, because I do want to dive deeper into that, because those teams not playing in Conference Championship weekend include Miami, as you mentioned, Ole Miss, Alabama, South Carolina. Danny, how much is really riding on the rankings released tomorrow night for these teams and their future?
Chip brought this up, and I think it's a great point, that we should learn the order of next man up, because we don't have any more games for those programs. The ones you mentioned, the 3-loss SEC teams and the Miami Hurricanes, who are all stacked up right there, similar resumes. You've got the 9-3 teams. They have the round robin, where I do think Alabama has the strongest case because they've beaten South Carolina. They've got that head-to-head going for them. Ole Miss would say, hey, well, we only lost our games by a little bit. We had one slip-up that was really kind of just a bad loss against Kentucky, but at least it was only by a field goal. So that, to me, is the dynamic that the committee is going to have to show. And the reason you feel like, okay, that's the wait list. Like if you go to a restaurant, you put your name in, you're not supposed to jumble it around after everybody's name is in. So it should just go, okay, then the next man up. And that's the way I think it should be, although the committee has proven time and time again to shock the world and do whatever the heck they want to. But I do think they have to honor that, because they will have nothing left to build on to add to their resumes. So I think those will be set in stone. So you'll at least know the waiting list, who's up next.
Yeah, we're at different points in our lives. Danny's talking about the restaurant. I was thinking about daycare wait list. Yeah. But it's all the same thing, all right? You're just trying to make sure that you are as close to being the next one in as possible. And that's where Alabama has the strength of schedule argument. Alabama does have that win against South Carolina. And I think that if it was going to come down to an Alabama and an SMU, it's going to be really tough for a selection committee that put the same Crimson Tide program into the playoff ahead of an undefeated 13-0 ACC champion to not at least, even subconsciously, like I'm not alleging conspiracy. I think there is something to be said for just the way that the selection committee plays off vibes, that all of these rankings releases are vibe checks. And to that, I will add, because I brought it up on the Cover 3 podcast on Monday, as Danny mentioned, the committee better not change the order when none of these teams have played, because that would be a really bad look and a credibility issue for the committee when a team could be able to make a jump. You know, we've seen the TCU drop from 3 to number 6 even after they won, and that caused a big outrage. If a team seemingly is the next team in, only to fall to another team that also did not play, that would be a bad look for the selection committee moving forward. But I agree 100%. Those teams should know in order who is up next and what kind of chaos scenarios they might need to be able to get into the playoff.
Yeah, that's a great point. Listen, Danny's on wait lists for restaurants in Tallahassee. He has college visits coming up, okay, Chip? Madison Social's waiting for him in Tally. All right, let's get back to conference championship weekend, because you brought up a good point, Danny. You felt bad leaving out a Georgia if they did lose. But Chip, how much should the committee punish a team like a Georgia, a Penn State, if they lose over conference championship weekend?
I think it would be unhealthy to punish those teams for losing in conference championship Saturday. I think it would be unhealthy for the sport of college football for us to incentivize not playing. Lane Kiffin already brought this to the forefront before, obviously, they lost and kind of played themselves out of SEC title contention. But the idea that it would motivate a coaching staff or motivate a team to be able to sit at home instead of playing for a championship, I think rips away a lot of what we love about college football. This is a sport that you're only guaranteed 12 games, and you should absolutely be making the most of every moment that you have to go out there and play for your university with your teammates. You're going to be gone in 3, 4, 5 years. We should maximize the opportunity to go and compete for championships at the highest level, not incentivize the idea to game the system, because at the college football level, I think that would be really, really unfortunate for the message that it sends to everybody in those locker rooms across the country.
Agreed. But they're going to get punished. Like, there's punishment for losing. You just saw it happen. I think the score probably dictates how much you get punished as well. Penn State's a really good example. If they lose to Oregon, let's say it's a field goal, or let's say it's 1 point, which is exactly what Ohio State did. Do they lose out so much and get punished where they lose a potential home game where they were sitting before this game? Do they drop below Ohio State, who didn't get to play this weekend but did beat Penn State head-to-head in Happy Valley? Like, there's some really interesting dynamics that are going to unfold when the committee's going to have to make these tough decisions. I am with you. I don't think they should be punished as far as missing the playoffs, but even like where you're playing and, you know, who you're playing against, where are you seated, is going to matter as well, very much so. And I will say this, there's also another team. The Big 12 loser is out. The ACC loser, if it is SMU and they're ranked 8th, and we'll see where the committee has them, but it'll probably be inside that top 12. If they lose to Clemson and they keep in Clemson and kick out SMU, I think that's another really bad precedent to send, because they would have no advantage to play in this game, while Notre Dame, Indiana, some of these other schools that aren't playing in it would benefit from not making their conference championship weekend. So there's a lot of precedents that are going to be made this weekend that we have no idea which direction they're going to go.
So many ifs, so many questions. I cannot wait to finally have the answer. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. Looking forward to seeing you in Indianapolis at the Big Ten Championship game, which is on CBS this year. Get more from the guys, college football playoff talk, right now on the Cover 3 podcast. Scan that QR code and watch and listen now.